Welcome to the Deep Dive. You're here because you want to get smart on fascinating topics without wading through endless pages. And, well, that's exactly what we do using the sources you shared.
That's right.
Today, we're diving headfirst into, just an incredible story of perseverance and the search for knowledge. It's the journey of a really remarkable individual.
Absolutely. We're talking about Faxian. He was a Chinese Buddhist monk who, get this, at roughly 60 years old, set off on this astonishing pilgrimage.
Astonishing is the word.
On foot. From China all the way to India and back. This is late 4th, early 5th century.
Wow. Just let that sink in for a second.
Yeah.
The scale of that? It's almost unimaginable today, let alone back then.
Totally unimaginable.
It really is mind-boggling. So yeah, this is our deep dive into Faxian,
Yeah.
also known as Faxian or Faxian. His birth name was Gongsehi.
Mm-hmm.
Our mission really is to unpack what drove him on this incredibly dangerous journey, what he actually saw in India, which he wrote down thankfully in his Foguji, the record of the Buddhist kingdoms.
A crucial text.
And look at the huge impact his whole effort had on Buddhism back in East Asia.
And, for historians, Faxian's Foguji is just invaluable. It gives us what's called a terminus ante quem.
Okay, what does that mean exactly?
It's basically a historical not later than date. Think of it like this. Because Faxian describes certain things, names, events, texts, ideas in India in the early 5th century.
Right.
We know those things must have existed no later than that time. It helps pin down timelines, especially for, say, the development of different Buddhist schools and philosophies. It's a fantastic anchor point.
Got it. So a really important historical marker. Okay, so let's picture the scene. It's the late 390 CE. Faxian, already around 60 years old,
Incredible.
leaves Chang'an in China.
Yeah.
And he doesn't get back until 412.
A massive journey.
And the really key part of this whole odyssey was the decade he spent immersed in India. Okay, let's dig into that first. What on earth motivates a man of, 60 to attempt something so huge and risky?
Well, the main driver, it seems, was his deep worry about the Vinaya collections back in Chang'an.
The Vinaya. Remind us what that is.
Those are the monastic rules. Basically, the code of conduct, the regulations for Buddhist monks and nuns. The sources say Faxian was really troubled that the collections they had in China were incomplete, sort of patchy.
Ah, okay. So this wasn't some kind of, sightseeing tour.
Not at all.
It was a serious mission, a scholarly, spiritual quest to get the foundational texts right for proper Buddhist practice.
Precisely. He needed the complete rule book, so to speak.
And he didn't start out completely on his own, did he?
That's right. Around late 399, maybe early 400 CE, he teamed up with 4 other monks, Hujing, Daojing, Huiying, and Huiwei. They all agreed to make this trek to India specifically to find more complete versions of the Vinaya.
Strength in numbers, I guess.
And their group actually grew. Later on, 5 more pilgrims joined them when they reached Zhangyi.
That's some serious dedication from all of them. Now, we also know a bit about his early life, which seems like it set him on this path very, very young.
It really did. He became a novice monk at just 3 years old.
3?
Yeah, quite extraordinary. The backstory is quite sad, actually. He lost 3 older brothers when they were young.
Oh, no.
And his father, probably terrified the same would happen to Faxian, dedicated him to the monastery, kind of like a blessing or protection.
I see.
Then later, when his father died, his uncle urged him, come back, look after your mother. But Faxian had already made his choice.
He stuck with it.
He did. He apparently said he wanted to be far from the dust and vulgar ways of life. It shows a really deep personal commitment to being a monk right from early on. It wasn't just something his parents decided.
That decision, especially after his father's death, really says a lot about his character, his resolve. And there's that story, too, isn't there, about the thieves. It shines a light on who he was.
Oh, yeah, that's a great anecdote. So Faxian and some other young monks are out cutting rice in the fields, and these hungry thieves show up wanting to take their harvest. The other monks, understandably, panicked and ran.
I probably would have, too.
Right. But Faxian, he stood his ground. And instead of fighting back or resisting, he spoke to them with just remarkable compassion.
What did he say?
He basically acknowledged their hunger, their need right now, but also gently suggested, maybe their hardship now was linked to not being generous in past lives, and he worried about their future suffering because of this theft.
Bold move.
Incredibly bold,
Yeah.
and apparently the thieves were so struck by his words, his whole demeanor, that they just left the grain and walked away.
No way.
Yeah. The other monks were, as you can imagine, completely blown away by his courage and, well, the power of his nonviolent conviction.
What an amazing story. A powerful glimpse into his character early on. Okay, so he's got this deep motivation, he's got this group, and he sets off. That first part of the journey along the Silk Road, paint a picture for us. It must have been brutal.
Oh, unbelievably tough. They were walking west from Chang'an, crossing these vast, icy deserts, dealing with extreme cold, extreme heat.
Just walking.
Just walking. And navigating these incredibly rugged, dangerous mountain passes. The physical endurance alone. It's staggering to think about, day after day, with probably very basic supplies.
Yeah, it's hard for us to even imagine the challenges.
Yeah.
Freezing temperatures, maybe bandits, lack of water.
Exactly. All of that. And this incredibly long, hard overland route eventually brought them into India, coming in from the northwest.
Okay, so he makes it to India and then spends a whole decade there.
A full 10 years, yes.
Yeah.
Importantly, this was during the reign of Chandragupta II, a significant period in Indian history.
And this long stay allowed him to really immerse himself, right?
Yeah.
Visiting the key Buddhist sites.
Absolutely. He made pilgrimages to the places that were, directly tied to the Buddha's life and teachings, the really sacred spots.
So places like Kapilavastu, which is Lumbini now, the Buddha's birthplace.
Yes, that one. And Bodh Gaya, of course, where he reached enlightenment.
Under the Bodhi tree.
Precisely. Then Benares, or Varanasi, where he gave his first sermon. Shravasti, which was a major hub for early Buddhism. And Kushinagar, the place where the Buddha passed away, attained parinirvana.
Visiting those places must have been incredibly powerful for him. A deeply spiritual experience.
You have to imagine it was transformative. But he wasn't just a pilgrim. He was also there as a scholar.
Right, the original mission.
Yeah.
The texts.
Exactly. He put serious effort into learning Sanskrit.
The language of the scriptures in India, then.
Yes, the main language for Buddhist texts there. And he diligently searched for and collected Indian Buddhist literature. He spent time in major centers of learning like Pataliputra, that's modern Patna.
Okay.
And also Audhyana and Taxila, up in the Gandhara region. It was like a massive, decade-long treasure hunt for scriptures.
It really sounds like it. And his book, the Foguji, gives us this unique snapshot of Buddhism in India at that specific time, the early 5th century.
It absolutely does. It's a priceless first-hand account. He talks about the different Buddhist traditions he saw. He notes the Hinayana schools, which some might know as Theravada, though that's complex.
Right, the older schools.
Generally, yes. And he also observes the Mahayana traditions, which were becoming increasingly influential then.
So different interpretations and approaches within Buddhism coexisting.
Yes, and he even mentions specific sub-traditions within the broader Theravada lineage that were around in 5th century India. His work led him to gather a really significant number of Sanskrit texts. These were the treasures he aimed to bring back to China.
And his observations weren't just confined to India proper, right? He also noted Buddhist practices in Central Asia on his way there.
That's a good point. Yes, he mentions places like Khotan, a major oasis city on the Silk Road.
What did he see there?
He described thriving Buddhist communities. He noted that the local monks deeply respected Indian manuscripts and even recited them in Indian languages.
Interesting.
And in Taxila, too, he described a notable Buddhist community, even though he observed most people in the surrounding area followed other faiths.
So it gives us a picture of Buddhism as this really widespread religion and cultural force stretching across huge areas.
Definitely. And Faxian gives us these wonderful, vivid details about the religious life he witnessed, especially the big public ceremonies.
Well, yeah. Boy.
He describes these really elaborate rituals and public festivals honoring the Buddha. And interestingly, these often had royal support, showing that Buddhism had significant patronage.
So state-sponsored events almost.
In some cases, yes. He talks about annual processions, particularly one on the 8th day of the 2nd month. Get this. They'd build these huge wheeled cars.
Like floats.
Kind of, but way more elaborate. Multi-story structures made of bamboo, designed to look like stupas, the Buddhist relic mounds.
Wow.
And these things were decked out, covered in colorful fabrics, adorned with figures of devas like deities and Buddhas made from gold, silver, lapis lazuli, plus silken streamers, canopies.
Sounds incredible.
And music, lots of music and offerings. He mentioned seeing maybe 20 of these massive, ornate cars in just one procession, each one decorated differently. It must have been an amazing spectacle.
That paints such a vibrant picture. Religious devotion, artistry, community celebration, all rolled into one.
Exactly. But it wasn't just the grand spectacles. He also noticed the more everyday acts of kindness and social welfare.
Oh, what did he observe there?
He specifically writes about charitable houses set up in many cities, funded by wealthy families.
Like charities.
Essentially, yeah, like welfare centers. They provided all sorts of help to people in need, the poor, destitute, orphans, widowers, childless people, people with disabilities, the sick.
It's quite comprehensive.
It really was. They offered food, shelter, but also medicine and care. The idea was to help people recover and get back on their feet, if possible. It sounds remarkably progressive for the 5th century, suggesting a strong sense of, social conscience.
It really does. That's fascinating. Did he notice any other sort of cultural details, comparisons maybe?
He did make an interesting observation. He noted that the people in Madhya, that's the central region, Magadha, down through the Deccan, he thought their way of eating and dressing seemed somewhat similar to how people lived in China, which is an intriguing little detail. He also described Pataliputra, the big city, the old Mauryan capital, as being very prosperous and lively.
So after 10 years, soaking all this in, learning, gathering scriptures, he decides it's time to head home.
Yes, around 409 CE, he finally starts the return journey. He left India from the port of Tamarlipti, which is on the east coast.
Right. And you mentioned earlier, not everyone who started with him came back.
That's right. Some of his original companions decided to stay in India. You can imagine after a decade there, maybe they felt more at home or just wanted to continue their studies.
Makes sense. But Faxian's journey back, you said, was even more dangerous than getting there.
It sounds like it, yes. The return trip was primarily by sea, and it turned out to be incredibly perilous.
Okay, so first, didn't he spend some time in Sri Lanka?
He did, yes.
Yeah.
A significant stop. He stayed in Sri Lanka for 2 years. Another major center of Buddhism, obviously, so more opportunities for learning and collecting texts there, too.
Right. But then the sea voyage from there, that's where things got really hairy.
Absolutely harrowing, by his account. After leaving Sri Lanka, his ship got caught in a massive storm.
Oh, boy.
It blew them way off course and eventually smashed them onto an island. They think it was probably Java.
Shipwrecked in Java.
Seems like it. He was stuck there for 5 long months.
Wow. 5 months. Then what?
Then they finally managed to get another ship heading towards southern China, but believe it or not, they hit another major storm, blown off course again.
You're kidding. That's terrible luck. Where'd they end up this time?
Well, after a really, really tough voyage from Java lasting over 70 days.
70 days at sea.
70 days. And their supplies, food, and especially fresh water were running dangerously low. Just when things must have seemed utterly desperate, they finally sighted land.
Thank goodness. Where was it?
They landed at Mount Lao, which is in Shandong province in northern China, near modern Qingdao.
So not southern China where they were aiming, but still.
Exactly. The relief must have been immense. He actually writes about seeing familiar vegetables grow, and he names lei and huo, and realizing we made it, we're home, after everything they'd been through.
What a moment that must have been. Okay, so he finally arrives back in China proper in 412. He settles in Nanjing. But his work wasn't done, was it? He still had a massive task ahead.
Not at all. His work was entering a new, crucial phase. Around 414, he finished writing his account, the Foguji.
The book we've been talking about.
The very one. And as we've said, it's just packed with invaluable details about early Buddhism, the geography of Central Asia and India, the cultures along the Silk Road. A real treasure trove from the turn of the 5th century. It's been translated many times over the years, thankfully.
So people can read it today.
Yeah.
But beyond writing his travelogue, he spent the rest of his life on the scriptures he brought back, right?
That's right. He dedicated the last decade of his life, remember, he's already quite elderly by this point, to the huge job of translating and carefully editing all those Buddhist scriptures he'd risked so much to collect in India.
That sounds like another monumental undertaking in itself.
It absolutely was. And these translations were hugely influential. They really shaped the future course of Chinese Buddhism. They introduced new ideas, new texts, deepened the understanding of Buddhist philosophy.
It had a profound impact.
Did he work alone on the translations?
He actually collaborated on some of them with an Indian scholar, a sramana that's like a wandering monk or ascetic named Buddhabhadra. So a direct India-China collaboration on these vital texts.
That's fantastic. Bridging the cultures right there in the translation work. It's amazing to think about the intellectual connection he forged. And he lived a good long life after all that.
He did. He passed away at the impressive age of 88.
88. after everything he went through. Incredible.
Yes, he died peacefully in the monastery of Sin in Qingqiao, which is in modern Hubei province. He left behind this incredible legacy that scholars are still studying and appreciating today. And it's interesting that even early European scholars picked up on his work, like that French translation by Ramessa, even if they struggled a bit with the Sanskrit names.
Right, it caused quite a stir even back then. And later, James Legg's 19th century English translation brought Faxian's story and account to an even wider English-speaking audience. Legg provided some useful biographical bits too, although, some of his interpretations have been updated by later research. Still important groundwork.
And his name, Faxian, you mentioned it, means something significant.
Yes, his clerical name, Faxian, translates roughly as illustrious in the law, or illustrious master of the law.
Well, that certainly seems fitting, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Given his life's work, his dedication, and the sheer impact he had, it feels incredibly appropriate.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive.
Okay.
We've really traveled with Faxian, hasn't we? Across deserts, mountains, oceans, through a really pivotal time in history.
We really have.
We've looked at his incredible drive, his motivation to get those scriptures. We've seen the amazing details his Foguji gives us about early Buddhism, Indian society, the Silk Road cultures.
A truly unique window into that world.
And we've touched on the huge legacy of his translation work back in China, shaping Buddhism there for centuries.
Absolutely. His journey wasn't just about covering miles. It was this profound, intellectual, spiritual quest that genuinely connected civilizations and hugely enriched our understanding of that whole era.
It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? Just the sheer willpower needed for a journey like that in the 5th century. 60 years old, setting off on foot.
Mind-boggling determination.
Yeah. Are there modern parallels, you think? People pursuing knowledge or a cause with that kind of single-minded dedication against all odds and then sharing it?
That's a great question to ponder. Perhaps in science, exploration, activism, the drive to discover and disseminate is still there, though the context is so different.
And what about his observations of India? Those charitable houses, the vibrant public ceremonies. Do any aspects of that description resonate today when we look at different cultures, different societies? Maybe the enduring importance of community support or public ritual?
It's definitely food for thought. How societies care for the vulnerable, how they express collective belief. These are timeless themes. Faxian gives us a fascinating 5th century perspective.
For sure. Well, it certainly leaves us with plenty to think about. Whether you're interested in the Silk Road, early Buddhism, or just incredible stories of human endurance and travel, Faxian's journey is one worth exploring further.